Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at Loveworld USA News. I'm Joel Richard. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. FBI releases photos of person of interest in Charlie Kirk killing. $100,000 reward offered. 3 teens in critical condition after shooting at Colorado high school. Suspected shooter among injured. Pentagon moves 9/11 ceremony indoors amid heightened security. And the DNC headquarters locked down after bomb threat. No device found. Over 300 South Korean workers detained in Georgia raid fly home after deal. And now to the news. In more stirring news from the Charlie Kirk shooting, the FBI released 2 photos of a person of interest in the fatal shooting of conservative speaker Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, and announced a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to identification and arrest of those responsible. The images show a thin male wearing jeans, a long-sleeve black shirt with an American flag graphic, black sunglasses, and a hat. Now, investigators said they have traced the shooter's escape route and recovered a high-powered, bolt-action rifle along with foot, palm, and forearm imprints linked to the crime. Authorities said a single shot was fired around 12:20 p.m. yesterday, about 20 minutes after Kirk began speaking outdoors on campus. Dispatch audio described the suspect in black clothing with a long gun, tactical helmet, mask, and possible tactical vest. Officials believe the shooter accessed the rooftop via a stairwell shortly before noon, then fled over the far side of the building into a nearby neighborhood. Earlier in the investigation, 2 different individuals were detained and later released. Now, Charlie Kirk, who was 31 years old and the founder of Turning Point USA, also a father of 2, was taken from the scene by security and later died of his injuries. Utah Valley University said thousands were in attendance, with the FBI urging anyone with information to contact its Salt Lake City field office. Watch this.
FBI Salt Lake City office posting 2 images of an individual wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. The shooter is believed to be college-aged, and authorities say he was able to blend in with the crowd of 3,000 at Charlie Kirk's speaking event Wednesday on the campus of Utah Valley University. Police say Kirk was targeted, and the community is not at risk thanks to video surveillance. Authorities have been able to track the shooter's movements leading up to the Kirk event and after, which led to the discovery of the high-powered bolt-action rifle they believe was used to fire that single shot. Footwear and body prints are also being done for analysis. 3 unspent cartridges were found containing wording on them expressing what some law enforcement sources tell ABC News has been described as transgender and anti-fascist ideology. It's unclear what that means, and authorities are still working to determine the meaning.
In more stirring news around the nation, 3 teenagers were hospitalized in critical condition yesterday after a shooting at Evergreen High School outside Denver, authorities said. All of the injured are believed to be students, including the suspected shooter. Now, the incident began around 12:30 p.m., according to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. No responding officers fired their weapons, and it was not immediately clear whether the gunfire occurred inside the school building. By mid-afternoon, the 3 teens were in surgery or being treated in the ER at St. Anthony Hospital in Lakewood, adding he did not believe there were additional victims, the hospital CEO said. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel said agents were on the scene supporting local authorities. Colorado Governor Jared Polis said he was receiving live updates and that state troopers were assisting on the scene. More than 100 law enforcement officers from the Denver area responded to the campus, which enrolls more than 900 students. Now, officials have not released the identities of those involved or a possible motive. The sheriff's office said the investigation is ongoing. Let's take a look.
At least 3 students are in critical condition after a shooting at Evergreen High School in Jefferson County, the same county where Columbine High School is located. Investigators believe the shooter is among one of those students. The suspect opened fire shortly after noon. Investigators say the school is now clear and secure. They will get warrants for the student's home and locker.
In a momentous day in U.S. history, the Pentagon's 9/11 commemoration was moved from the outdoor memorial to the building's inner courtyard under an elevated security posture, turning the heart of the complex into a solemn sanctuary of remembrance. Metal detectors, barricaded corridors, and a tightened perimeter funneled invited guests into the courtyard as the ceremony began with moments of silence and the reading of names. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump led the observance, standing beneath the five-sided skyline as wreaths were placed and bells tolled. The tone was spare and resolute, a vow to remember, a promise to protect, and a reminder that nearly a quarter century later, the day still binds the nation. In a dramatic flourish, the White House announced that Charlie Kirk will receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously, elevating the fallen activist to a symbol of free expression at a time of sharpened political tensions. The honor punctuated a ceremony already defined by intensified security and an unmistakable sense of urgency. Now, with the venue moved indoors and the footprint of the event reconfigured, the Pentagon delivered a tight, high-impact remembrance that kept focus where it belonged, on the lives lost and the enduring mission, while signaling that commemoration and vigilance now go hand in hand. In other news today, the Democratic National Committee's headquarters in Washington, D.C. was placed on lockdown after a bomb threat prompted a heavy police response and street closures around the building. Staff were told to avoid the area as officers secured the perimeter. Authorities later determined the threat was not credible, but conducted a full interior sweep out of caution before allowing access to resume. Nearby roads were temporarily restricted during the operation. The scare fell on the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attacks and amid heightened security tensions following the recent fatal shooting of political commentator Charlie Kirk in Utah. Officials said they are continuing to monitor for any additional threats and urged the public to rely on official updates. Let's take a look.
The DNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. is evacuated. This is following reports of a bomb threat. The threat was not deemed to be credible, but Capitol Police conducted a search of the building out of an abundance of caution. No injuries have been reported.
The news will be back after this break.
No matter how hard we try, words simply cannot express the horror, the shock, and the revulsion we all feel over what took place in this nation on Tuesday morning. September 11 will go down in our history as a day to remember.
A breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago.
None of us will ever forget the pictures of our courageous firefighters and police, many of whom have lost friends and colleagues, or the hundreds of people attending or standing patiently in line to donate blood. A tragedy like this could have torn our country apart, but instead it has united us, and we've become a family. Yes, our nation has been attacked, buildings destroyed, lives lost. But now we have a choice, whether to implode and disintegrate emotionally and spiritually as a people and a nation, or whether we choose to become stronger through all of this struggle to rebuild on a solid foundation. And in that faith, we have the strength to endure something as difficult and horrendous as what we've experienced this week. My prayer today is that we will feel the loving arms of God wrapped around us, and will know in our hearts that He will never forsake us as we trust in Him. And this is going to be a day that we will remember. May God bless you all.
In a day commemorating a day of great infamy, we remember those who have fought for freedom. In the light of great events in this great nation, we remember those who have fought for freedom, justice, and rights for all. In other news today, a chartered Korean air flight carrying more than 300 South Korean nationals detained in last week's immigration raid at a Hyundai battery plant site departed Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport late this morning, bound for Seoul. The group had been bussed from an ICE detention center in Folkestone, Georgia, where many of the 475 workers swept up in the operation were held. Seoul said the release group included 316 South Koreans, 10 Chinese, 3 Japanese, and 1 Indonesian citizen. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung said Washington and Seoul negotiated the terms of release, including whether detainees would be handcuffed during transport or whether their exit will be processed as voluntary departure or deportation. Lee added that the White House paused procedures after President Donald Trump directed that detainees be allowed to leave freely or remain if they choose. One South Korean with U.S. family opted to stay. The workplace raid, part of the administration's broader enforcement push, drew intense attention because it targeted a marquee project, Hyundai's $7.6 billion EV complex west of Savannah, where a battery plant with LG Energy Solution is under construction, and the auto plant began production last year. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's office stressed the state's 4-decade relationship with Korean industry and said partners have reiterated they'll follow state and federal laws. ICE video from the operation showed agents lining up workers, frisking some, and applying restraints before transport. President Lee said Seoul will review visa processes for business travelers after the incident, which rattled investors and underscored how rarely South Korean nationals are central to U.S. immigration raids. Watch this.
Last week's raid on a plant operated by Hyundai and LG in Georgia has South Korean workers in the U.S. running scared. Reuters sources say large numbers are rushing home from facilities operated by LG Energy Solution. It's the world's #2 car battery maker and has 7 plants in the US, including 4 under construction. The Hyundai raid last week saw 475 people detained, including over 300 Koreans. Many of those held had been sent to the US for construction work or equipment installation. However, that kind of work is not permitted under visa waivers or business traveller visas. One of the sources says workers at LGES plants who are in the US on visa waivers have now been instructed by the firm to go home. The company has reportedly told subcontractors to make contingency plans and hire local workers, concerned that the situation will hamper its operations in the US. LGES wouldn't comment on that, but did say it had told all workers on business trips to the US to head home or remain at their residences. South Korean companies say they have struggled to obtain suitable visas for the workers needed at high-tech plants in the US and have come to rely on a loose interpretation of visa rules. South Korean media reports say Seoul and Washington will now discuss creating a new visa category to address the problem. However, on Thursday, President Lee Jae-myung said the raid was likely to leave his country's businesses hesitant about investing in the US. Meanwhile, a plane has arrived in Georgia to take home the workers detained in the raid. It's expected to take off on Thursday morning East Coast time. Seoul has asked that its nationals now be allowed to depart quickly and without handcuffs.
And now the U.S. economy. U.S. mortgage rates fell sharply this week, with the average 30-year fixed dropping to 6.35% from 6.50%, the largest weekly decline in a year, according to Freddie Mac's primary mortgage market survey. Now, a year ago, the 30-year averaged 6.20%. The 15-year fixed slipped to 5.50% from 5.60%, which was 5.27% a year earlier. Now, lower borrowing costs drew buyers back. Total mortgage applications rose 9.2% last week, the Mortgage Bankers Association said, pushing its composite index to 297.7, the highest in more than 3 years. Refinance activity jumped 12.2% and accounted for nearly half of all applications, while purchase applications climbed 6.6% to a 2-month high. Now, Freddie Mac chief economist Sam Catter said rates are headed in the right direction, noting purchase applications saw their strongest year-over-year growth in more than 4 years. The housing market has been constrained by high rates, elevated prices, and limited inventory. But supply is inching higher and annual price gains are moderating. With the Fed's policy rate steady at 4.25% to 4.50% since December, investors are watching for a possible rate cut as earlier as next week, which could add further relief to mortgage costs. Let's take a look.
0.29% for a 30-year fixed mortgage, according to Mortgage News Daily. It's the lowest in about 11 months. For a $500,000 home, which is the average, hard to believe, in Connecticut, that means paying nearly $2,500 a month for principal and interest with a 20% down payment. That's about a $200 a month savings from May, when rates peaked at about 7%, and your payment would be around $2,700. So where are rates headed now with the Fed meeting next week?
Our rates are really based on inflation data. We look for inflation, consumer price index, jobs reports. So when those announcements are made, our markets have already reacted. So our rates right now are lower because of the conversation about the Fed's reducing the rate. So our market reacts before the Feds actually make any changes.
Tech giant Oracle's blistering rally vaulted co-founder Larry Ellison to the top of the global wealth rankings, overtaking Tesla CEO Elon Musk as the world's richest person. The software giant's shares jumped more than 30% in after hours and pre-market trading following earnings that showed accelerating sales and a bullish outlook for its cloud business, with gains extending after the opening bell. Now, Ellison owns roughly 1.16 billion Oracle shares, about 41% of the company, sending his net worth up by an estimated $100 billion plus over 2 sessions and lifting him past Musk, whose fortune is heavily tied to Tesla's stock. Now, before the surge, Bloomberg's Billionaires Index pegged Musk around $384 billion and Ellison near $294 billion. Investors cheered Oracle's guidance and momentum in renting out computing power and databases to AI-hungry customers, a narrative that has trailed big tech's largest winners this year. The move also narrows the gap between Oracle and hyperscale rivals as enterprises shift from workloads to the cloud. Leaderboards can whipsaw with market moves. Musk's wealth has risen and fallen alongside Tesla's shares amid uneven EV demand and shifting strategic bets. Now, while Ellison's fortune remains tethered to Oracle's performance. Still, Wednesday's spike underscores how quickly the AI cloud trade can redraw the billionaire standings and also investor expectations. Watch this.
Oracle chairman Larry Ellison added nearly $100 billion to his net worth on Wednesday, putting him within striking distance of Elon Musk's fortune, as shares of the cloud computing giant rallied in what could be the firm's largest single-day gain in decades. Shares Oracle soared 38% to around $334 a share Wednesday morning, setting fresh opening and intraday record highs and pacing the largest intraday gain for the stock since a 43% increase in December of 1992, when the stock traded at just over 60 cents a share. The rally raised Oracle's market cap from $678.4 billion at Tuesday's closing share price to around $940 billion as of Wednesday. Ellison, who holds a roughly 41% stake in the company, ranks the second wealthiest person in the world with a fortune estimated at $391.8 billion. His equity in Oracle rose from $279.7 billion as of Tuesday's closing price to about $377 billion on Wednesday. Musk remains the world's richest person with an estimated net worth of $436.3 billion. Wall Street focused on Oracle's estimates released Tuesday for cloud infrastructure revenue, which CEO Safra Catz would increase to $18 billion.
We'll be back with more news after this break. Stay with us.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire. Live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand.
With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
Welcome back. And now on the international front, Britain's government faced criticism from the campaign against anti-Semitism after an estimated 70,000 people joined a march in central London on Sunday protesting rising anti-Semitism. The group said the absence of a senior minister fell far short of what was required, arguing it sent the wrong signal to the Jewish community amid record levels of abuse. The CAA said it invited all major parties to send high-ranking representatives. Senior opposition figures attended, including former Conservative cabinet minister Michael Gove and Reform UK's deputy leader Richard Tice, while the government offered a backbench peer, the group said. Downing Street did not immediately provide comment. Chief Rabbi Sir Ephraim Mirvis told the crowd there had been an explosion of hatred right across the UK, urging the country to wake up. The march came as a CAA-commissioned survey reported that 21% of British adults agreed with 4 or more anti-Semitic statements, up from 16% last year and 11% in 2021, according to the organization. Now, the government has also drawn scrutiny over the appointment of Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, with critics pointing to past pro-Palestinian activism. Supporters say policy should be judged by actions in office. Ministers have additionally faced criticism from Israel over the UK's decision to recognize a Palestinian state. The CAA said that since October 7, 2023, about half of British Jews have considered leaving the country, rising to 2/3 among younger Jews, and urged clearer assurances from the government. Mass pro-Palestinian rallies have continued in the United Kingdom since the Hamas attacks and Israel's military response, with police making arrests at some events over alleged hate crimes. Let's take a look. In Europe today, Belarus has released 52 detainees, including 14 foreign nationals, in one of the largest amnesties of Alexander Lukashenko's rule, following a visit by a U.S. delegation to Minsk. Those freed included citizens of the United Kingdom, France, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and Germany, alongside dozens of Belarusians jailed over anti-government activity. The move is widely viewed as an overture to Washington after years of isolation. Now, in tandem, the U.S. moved to ease sanctions on state airline Belavia, allowing servicing and parts purchases for its Boeing fleet, and signaled interest in reestablishing a diplomatic mission in Minsk. The White House welcomed the releases while pressing for freedom for roughly 1,300 remaining political prisoners. Among those reportedly pardoned were former presidential candidate Nikolai Statkevich, philosopher Vladimir Matskevich, and several independent journalists. Opposition figures stressed that many high-profile detainees remain behind bars, including activists Maria Koleniskova and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Alice Bialyatsky. Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya applauded the releases but urged continued pressure until all freed. The outreach comes amid heightened regional tension. Poland said suspected Russian drones crossed its airspace this week, some entering from Belarus on the eve of joint Russian-Belarusian support drills. Lukashenko has tried to cast himself as a potential mediator between Moscow and Washington, even as his security services continue arrests and prosecutions over past social media posts and other dissent. Critics say Minsk is using prisoners as bargaining chips for sanctions released to bolster a strained economy. Watch this.
Belarus freed 52 prisoners of various nationalities on Thursday, a release negotiated by a U.S. delegation to Minsk. That delegation included a personal letter from Donald Trump to Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Trump had earlier called on Lukashenko to release detainees the American leader described as hostages.
He's got 1,400 or 1,500 or a large number, and we're talking about releasing them.
The number freed fell far short of the roughly 1,400 prisoners whose release Trump had called for last week. Belarus's state news agency Belta said the prisoners freed on Thursday included 14 foreign nationals from Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, France, Britain, and Germany. Lithuania's President Gitanas Nausėda said the former prisoners included, quote, opposition figures, journalists, protest participants, foreign citizens, and others held in Belarusian prisons. Nausėda added that while he rejoiced at the release, we must not forget that there are still 1,000 political prisoners, including Lithuanians, in the neighboring country.
He said, come back, don't forget, I have these for him.
Belta also quoted the U.S. envoy saying that Trump wanted the U.S. to reopen its embassy in Minsk. Lukashenko has led Belarus through more than 3 decades of authoritarian rule and is a close ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Lukashenko allowed Putin to use Belarusian territory for his full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Minsk's harsh crackdown on political opposition and the press have rendered Lukashenko a pariah by democratic nations of the West. But Trump has flattered the Belarusian leader.
I very much gave my respects to the leader of the country. Again, he's a very strong man.
The prisoner release and possible warming between Washington and Minsk comes as Trump has failed to achieve a promised peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, and after NATO member Poland said it intercepted a flurry of Russian drones that invaded its airspace.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. FBI releases photos of person of interest in Charlie Kirk killing. $100,000 reward offered. 3 teens in critical condition after shooting at Colorado High School. Suspected shooter among injured. And the Pentagon moves 9/11 ceremony indoors amid heightened security. DNC headquarters locked down after bomb threat with no device found. Over 300 South Korean workers detained in Georgia raid fly home after deal. Now that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Joel Richards, signing off. Good night, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.